Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Business taxes. Was stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
Hey, Chicago. What do you say? Cubs gonna win today.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast. It's time for, we're going to do a twofer in this podcast. How about that? Joining me as Mike Praznowski and Oleg, and we're going to talk about the Cubs, and we're going to talk about the Bears. How about that?
I assume that you only mean that for the first hour, and the second hour is going to be all about the NIU Huskies.
Well, I thought we'd start with, a good 45 minutes on the 23rd ranked team in the nation, the Northern Illinois University Huskies, who are, as everyone knows, in their history, undefeated at Alabama and Notre Dame.
That's right.
How about that? How many teams can say that?
And I believe, did they lose to Georgia Tech once and beat them once? Because they beat Georgia Tech, right? I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Alabama.
They beat Boston College last year.
Yes, that's right.
They beat Maryland at home. Who okayed the trip to DeKalb on the Maryland?
Right. Well, when you get a chance to take an autumn trip to beautiful leaf country of DeKalb, Illinois, how can you pass that up?
That's very nice. And they played Oklahoma State at home when I was there. It was a Thursday night game.
Okay.
Yeah, the Oklahoma State cheerleaders were hanging out in the Taco Bell, not very far from our apartment. So one of us saw them, and the rest went over to check them out. They ran from us immediately.
The Taco Bell just down the street from the old Hardee's.
The Taco Bell that had the drive-thru on the wrong side
yes.
of the building.
Yes.
That was very convenient. If you were coming home alone and you zipped in there, you were literally put the car in park, lean across the seat. They still spilled half your shit down the outside of the car.
I'm sure everyone driving through there was sober.
Yeah, it probably was on the right side once, and somebody hit it so hard the Taco Bell just spun.
Yeah,
and then they left it that way. This worked. This is fine. We'll just have them go the other way. It'll be fine.
One more thing I want to say really quickly, Andy. I do, after listening to your solo podcast from last week, I do appreciate that you pronounce my name correctly. You seem to have a little problem with a few names on the podcast.
I like to give people options.
For sure.
I've heard it both ways. I don't want to judge. Is it Titans or is it Titans? It could be either. Before we start, I have some housekeeping. Very exciting announcement for Pointless Exercise. We have a new headquarters. We just established it. Yeah, I made the purchase this week. It's a lovely little property, 2700 Point Lane in Highland Park. I got a nice.
I know that address.
For it. And very excited about moving in.
Did you get
confused
about 25 pairs of shoes to go along with it too?
I did. Yep. I'm leaving the 23 on the gate too.
Oh,
Michael Jordan's house finally sold.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Oh wow! That podcast cash is the Pointless Exercise cash is coming in.
Yep.
I didn't know. I did not see that it sold already. Was it today? Is that the news?
Apparently, they went into contract Monday.
Oh, interesting.
Nobody's sure who bought it yet.
My parents just bought a new condo. And now
maybe it was them.
Yeah.
There you
go.
Yeah, we don't know what it sold for, or do we? Last asking price was $14.5 million. That seems hardly worth it. Come on, give me something nice.
Back in high school, I had a good friend who now lives in LA, and his uncle was one of the owners of Halo, the marketing, and he literally lived next door to Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So once in a while, it would be like maybe 2 or 3 times that I've been over there, and I saw the gate with the 23, and you kind of it was. I don't even remember the street, how it was laid out, but you couldn't see like the trees, and it was basically a forest between the properties.
The reason I know Halo exists is they had the sponsorship. Their name was on the back of all the chairs on the Bulls sidelines.
Yeah. That's right. Yep. It was a pretty big company. It was up in by the Leaning Tower in Morton Grove. I think something like that. Somewhere around there.
That's exciting.
It's really headquarters.
We're using surprised, not the word. These Cub fans. Why did everybody make a big deal out of the fact that Cubs got eliminated from division contention today? Like, I know what happened today, but there were people who seemed upset. It's like, did you not see this coming 4 months ago, 5 months ago?
Right.
Like Cap was like, that doesn't make you mad. It's like, no, we got mad months ago. We got over it.
It's not like there were any points like last season where they were within like a game and a half of the Brewers or something like that.
Yeah.
And we're like knocking right on the door of them. No, the Brewers basically right after that Memorial Day series up in Milwaukee against the Cubs pretty much have been running away with it.
And we know how it ends for the Brewers.
Yeah.
The same way it would end if the Cubs somehow got in 2 days in the playoffs and then go home.
They'll win just as many games in the postseason as the Cubs will.
Yeah, just like we did last year.
Right.
It's I've on a group talks with some friends. One of the friends was bemoaning the success of the Brewers. They got rid of their ace. The other ace is hurt.
Their success is mostly based on the fact that the rest of the division couldn't get out of their own fucking way.
Yeah, that's right. I'm still like I just can't wrap my brain around the fact that the Cubs have a $230 million payroll. I can't keep up.
I think the anger was more of like just looking back on how, what every Cub fan's expectation was ever since winning the World Series. And here we are, 8 years later, and half of the NL Central titles now have gone to the Milwaukee Brewers. When I think we thought that, that was going to be the start of a great era for the Cubs of being a perennial division winner, and it hasn't really turned out that way.
Well, Jed didn't say we're going to take the Central and never give it back.
That's true.
He didn't say that.
All right, so we got to hire Ryan Poles to run the Cubs.
Yeah, let him run. Let him run both. Why not? You don't need an offensive line for the Cubs either.
Right. I was about to say, I'm not sure that
so it'd be fine.
They're running away with anything either yet.
Yeah, it was a frustration that they lost 2 out of 3 to the A's right after the White Sox won 2 out of 3 from the A's.
Is that right?
Right. And at the same time, dropping 2 or 3 in Colorado.
Yeah.
Right on the heels of taking 2 out of 3 in LA, where the offense looked amazing.
Yeah, looking frisky against the Dodgers.
And then you get to
And
Colorado.
the only thing I got wrong, and I thought it was a 4-game series in Colorado, and I said they were going to lose 3 out of 4, and instead it was a 3-game series, and they lost 2 out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It might as well have been 3 out of 4.
If it had been 4, they'd have lost 3 out of 4.
Right. But I mean,
it was nice though. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, going to Colorado right on the heels of they tear the cover off the ball in LA. You're going to the most hitter-friendly ballpark in all of baseball, and you don't even score as many runs as the game where you scored the least amount of runs in LA. Very frustrating.
Yeah,
like you expect to give up runs there, but like the offense should have stayed high in a place like that.
Not just a homer-friendly park with a terrible team in it.
Correct.
Right.
Basically playing T-ball, and you still can't score any runs.
Yeah.
I thought it was nice today that the Cubs let Justin Steele throw his bullpen right out for everybody to watch.
Yeah.
That's right. He actually started the game.
Yeah, was he pretty good? I saw he only threw 2 2/3 innings, right?
Yeah, he threw lots of pitches in 2 2/3.
Did he really?
Got his pitches in. Almost 60.
Yeah, he left with the bases loaded, and who was it? Ethan Roberts came in to clean it up and didn't allow anything at that point. There was a pretty bad call when he had, I think it was Lawrence Butler 0-2, and there was a pitch that was like fairly borderline. Called it a ball, and then from that point on, I think at that point there was only like 1 guy on for the A's and 2 away, and they loaded the bases, and then at that point Craig pulled him.
Well, how can you overcome a bad call against Lawrence Butler? It's impossible. The A's are basically just a MLB Show created team. There's generic names, and Brett Rooker.
They really are.
And Mason Miller. They got 2 guys, and then they got 24 filler guys, 25, I guess, right now.
Well, this is the part right here where Oleg tells Andy that he has to give Ian Happ credit now because Ian Happ went deep off of Mason Miller last night. So Ian Happ, extend him, give him another no-trade clause. He's clearly worthy of it all.
Yeah. Ian Happ had 2 home runs yesterday, and that's 2 more apologies.
Oh, yeah, he's been amazing. Sure. And I really appreciate the fact that when the Cubs were terrible and, they needed their star to pull them out of it, he was unable to do it. And then now, when it doesn't mean anything, he's back. It's not predictable at all that Ian Happ would be hitting once the pressure completely fell off.
Exactly.
I'm not sure that that they're not playing for anything. I do believe that they may still be in the running for 5th best record in the second half.
That'd be 3 years in a row.
Right.
I mean, that's a three-peat. It's pretty impressive.
I'm pulling that out of my ass, but I'm pretty sure that it's true.
I really don't know. I kind of worry that this subpar September is letting it get away from them. But the National League's so bad, it could be that everybody is doing that.
Right.
I should look it up, but I won't.
Now I've come in the habit of watching Cub games without listening to them. I'd rather enjoy it. Has Boog been bringing up the run differential? Because it's kind of interesting.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I'm during games very often in my car, or in the case last night I was there. I don't often sit down and watch Cubs games like that, but I remember he had like the big crusade last year that run differential should count as the tiebreaker in that head-to-head. Because
the Cubs were so much better than their record, and it was just dumb luck that they weren't. So the Cubs and the Cardinals right now have basically the same record. The Cubs are, with today's loss, 77-75. The Cardinals are 76-75. The Cubs run differential is plus 63. The Cardinals is minus 61. According to Pythagoras, noted baseball fan Pythagoras, the Cubs should be 83-69. If they were, given the expected run differential for the Braves and the Mets, they'd be tied for the 3rd wild card spot. The Cardinals should be 69-82 with that run differential.
Oof.
So Oliver Marmol for a manager of the year.
Must be. It's got to be that. Right?
Well, he's going to get fired, and Skip Schumacher's getting his job unless Yachty decides he doesn't want to coach basketball anymore.
Of course. It would be pretty awesome if, for a couple reasons, if the Cardinals were to jump ahead of the Cubs down the stretch. I think just, it would probably pain Ricketts to have it be that way. For the Cardinals to, be better and like not make the playoffs. I think it could happen where like MLB could rig the draft for the Cubs and get them the number 1 pick if they're, because I don't know. I'm getting this weird itch that like that's what's going to happen for them. That like, okay, they're very clearly like trying to make the right moves, but they're not going out of the way to spend, and like they're building up their farm system. They don't have a star yet, and like they need one. So like,
or are we talking about the Cubs or the Cardinals? In
Cubs
that description, the Cubs. Okay,
yeah, the Cubs. I do fear
Cardinals
that...
are lousy. Cardinals are lousy with stars.
Yeah,
this is true.
Schmidt, Nolan Arenado, and I mean lousy with stars.
I do hear that
That's true.
There are some very fantastic players at the top of the draft who cannot hit velocity.
Oh, well, the Cubs should
Yeah,
do whatever you can to get those guys then.
Jet will be right all over them.
Trade things.
Are any of them, well, the Cardinals, though, are any of them named Tink? Because the Cardinals would want to go after that. Stubby? Is there a Stubby or a Tink they could draft?
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
They got a guy named TK in the minor leagues.
Well, that's close enough.
I think it's Takoa is his name. He goes by TK.
So do we think there's any chance at all? Remember that I said there was no chance that David Ross would get fired. Is there any chance at all that the season ends and Jed gets launched?
I'm pretty much hanging. It's the only optimism I have. Like that's the only hope that I have.
Like I don't think so. Just because the one thing that you could say that Jed has done a pretty decent job of is rebuilding the farm system. Again,
but
like we said, hasn't had a star yet. Go ahead.
Yeah, has he, or does he just get the prospect perverts all excited about these guys, and then they come up, and you're like, ugh. I mean, Pete Crow's good,
but he didn't draft Pete Crow.
No, and that's one guy. Mm-hmm. Everybody else that comes up is either obviously underwhelming, like Matt Mervis, or Craig apparently thinks is underwhelming because he's like, okay, yeah, you can play. We'll give you an inning today, and then just sit there for the next 10 days and go back to Iowa.
There is an opportunity, at least a little bit, to like you got to see what you have in Matt Shaw and maybe Casey and Alcantara and all those guys already, right?
Well, would you do this? Would you do the bold move got him the only World Series in the last when they went after Theo.
Whatever you're about to ask, the answer is yes.
What if they want to emulate another now successful Boston franchise who took Brad Stevens and promoted him to general manager and hired a new coach? What if they go into Craig and go, we're paying you $8 million a year. Why don't you just run the fucking team? Why don't you just take over as general manager?
He does have that history with the Brewers. Like he was in their front office before that. I wouldn't think 1 year into him being manager that they would do something that extreme.
This Cub organization is so complicated it takes more than a year to look around and go, holy shit, we need to change all of this.
Yeah. It's a very it's a promising.
Why can't he have him do both?
It's promising that they fired a bunch of scouts, right?
Well, it is and it isn't. It's promising they fired some, but then they slashed the budget to not hire replacements. So it's not like they're like, okay, these guys suck. We need better scouts. They were like, that's expensive. Let's just not do that anymore.
Yeah, let's not have these anymore.
But we'll jack up ticket prices because we're going to lose 2 home games when we go to Japan next year, even though it comes with a huge pile of cash that gets handed right to us. Why I don't care they raise ticket prices. That's the way of the world. You're really going to hide behind we're losing 2 home games when we go to Japan. Why don't you just say, we wanted to raise ticket prices, so we're going to fucking raise them because we can. We own the team. You're going to pay it. Shut up.
Sorry, is that really the excuse for this?
That was one of the reasons they gave for needing to raise ticket prices. They were going to have lower ticket revenue because they were going to lose 2 home games. And it's like, yeah, but you're also going to get another line on your budget Japan money that you didn't get. It's going to be fine. Baseball doesn't there's a reason. And think about, even if they didn't, say they do, say MLB didn't give them money. You're going to Japan you're taking Shota and Seiya. I would assume they're both still going to be around. You can't monetize that. You can't get a baseball crazy country even more excited about your team than it already is. Crane could be running around throwing out, little QR codes how to subscribe to the international feed of Marquee Sports Network.
Exactly. Well, you bring up Marquee. This is kind of the sort of thing that if they thought, if Marquee was as successful as they thought it would be, should be able to offset that sort of thing. Yeah. But, clearly it hasn't. Have we gotten yet to the point where the deal is expired and you have to pay the extra money for the special cable package?
Oh, no. They're still on.
Okay.
Comcast probably is who gives a shit? Just leave it on there for now. We'll get to that later. Nobody's watching that anyway. Don't worry about it.
Well, but Comcast has to pay them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we got to write a check. We don't want to write that check anymore.
Yeah, right.
Call Crane. Tell them we're not going to do it. I mean, not to be skeptical. Why would I be skeptical about the Cubs or the great Crane Kenny? Your close personal friend now. You don't think maybe the reason for the ticket increase is that they know they're going to be getting less money out of Marquee, and that's really what they're making up, not the trip to Japan? Because I think what's inevitably going to happen with Comcast is still going to be able to get Marquee through Comcast, but Comcast is going to move it to the sports tier.
Yeah.
And you pay extra to get it if you want it, but if you don't want it, you don't have to get it. So the amount of money the Cubs will get will go down because a lot of people have Comcast and don't give two shits about the Cubs or Marquee. Cubs get money from all those people right now. When they move into the sports tier, they will only get money from the people who subscribe to the sports tier. So it's going to go down.
But what is the ratio? What is the percentage of revenue that comes from TV versus ticket sales?
Oh, I don't know, but I know that, they look at it all as one big pile of cash. And if part of the pile is lower, they just try to increase the other other corner of the pile.
Because I would think that the other thing to think about isn't just you raise ticket prices, so you get probably fewer people coming. I don't know. Maybe not.
We're idiots.
Right. But
yes.
That's how it should work, right? You raise prices so you get lower, fewer people coming in. But that's also
you have
concessions, fewer other things that.
Yeah, you should a normal franchise with normal fan base would have to factor in if we raise ticket prices 5%.
Yeah.
Does that offset the inevitable decreases in the other areas? And if you can say yes, then you raise it.
Right.
The Cubs, I'm sure they have the conversation. I just don't think they worry about it. And they're not, without a major improvement, they're still going to be this next year, which as much as they'll act like they don't want this, they're not that upset by it. They're still theoretically in the playoff hunt with 10 games to go.
I think the only thing that matters is what is the attendance, right? At that point, it's not about winning; it's about winning just enough to keep attendance up, right? It's your co-host sold mediocrity by design thing, just to keep them interested enough to get them coming to the ballpark.
Exactly. But the thing that it betrays if that's their strategy, why are you paying so damn much to win 83 games?
Right. Well, that's the thing.
You're going to spend this much, which you should win more games.
Yes.
If you only want to win 83 games, you ought to be able to do it with $170 million payroll, not a $236 million payroll. And if Jed gets canned, that's why he's going to get canned. It's not going to be, we didn't make the playoffs again.
Right.
It's going to be, if we could win this many games and I could spend a lot less money on it, why are you wasting all of my money?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there some report that came out since last we recorded that there's some sort of dissension in the Cubs front office? I never heard specifically who in the front office it involves. I assume Chad would be.
It came from an impeccable report of Bob Nightingale.
Well, maybe it might not be true, but
I think it has. That's one of those things when you read it, you're like, yeah, no shit, right? Would any team that is underachieving would their front office all be sitting around going, everything's great? I mean, somebody's got to be bitching about something. Or if not, it's bad. That's a bad sign. That's the old, and I talked about last week, that's the old Bill Walsh. If everybody's thinking the same thing, nobody's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you can be on the, you're going to win 82 or 83 games again. And if everybody's sitting around going, I think everything's going great, you're fucked. I mean, somebody's got to be like, we've got to change the way we're doing this. This is stupid. And it better be, one of the guys saying this should be Jet. He should be one of the dissenting voices, which is, this doesn't work. We got to change something.
Is he dissenting against himself? Like, what's the...
Well, he should be dissenting against his own results.
Yeah.
I mean, he shouldn't be sitting there going, I think this is working swimmingly. He's the boss. If anybody in that room gets to bitch, it's him, right?
This is true, but
you guys are all making me look bad. I have all these brilliant ideas, and you can't help me achieve them. It's your fault, not mine.
The thing is, though, like it always goes pretty viral every time that he goes on either the Score or AM 1000 or on any big media outlet. And it'll be the same thing when he has his end of season press conference where he filibusters reporters and doesn't really allow them to ask more than like 5 questions like Theo did. He's going to basically say the same thing that, like, we have Cody Bellinger, we have Dansby Swanson, like, we paid them like they're stars. They're supposed to be stars, But I think we all knew
that's
that
why.
wasn't really
That's
the
why
case.
you give Michael Cerami a press pass so he could stand in the back and go, Dansby's not supposed to hit. Well, good, because he's not. I'm glad he's not supposed to.
He got paid like, I don't know, the 5th best shortstop, best shortstop in the league. And you know what? Honestly, he might be.
Yeah, he's not. Dansby's not a bad player, right?
He's fine.
And he costs what he cost. If you looked at your farm system and said, we don't have a shortstop and we're not going to produce one for the next X amount of years, you go get one and you sign Dansby. Right. And that's fine. But, he had, there was a big red flag at the time, which was the Braves signing everybody. And then they looked at Dansby and said, good luck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go get him. Go get your money somewhere else, just not here. Because they clearly thought, we can replace that. Yeah. And he's a nice player. We like him, but we're not going to pay everybody. And he's the one we're not going to pay. Defensively, he's even better than I thought he was going to be. I mean, he's a great defensive shortstop. Yeah. He went like 4 months without an error this year. Nobody even noticed because he just, he's. But he's supposed to hit something, right? Right. I mean, it was ridiculous to think he's going to come in. He's going to hit like 5th in your order, 4th or 5th. He's not a minute, but he should be hitting 6th or 7th and putting up better numbers than he is. There's a right to be disappointed, but it's not like his signing is not an abject failure, right? Like it's been pretty good.
Even if he produces, I know there was a lot of filth down the stretch last season, but if he continues to hit like he did last season, right in the above average in OPS plus and, pops you 20, 25 home runs, drives an 80, I think you'd take that from Dansby every year if you're also getting elite shortstop from him too. Just hasn't been there this year.
But you also need to you have to come to grips with the fact that you've got an excellent defensive shortstop who's just a little above league average offensively. And so you need other guys in that lineup have to push Dansby down. It's like last year it's like Nico still hits too high. Nico should be hitting 9th in your order if he's going to play every day. And he hits 6th a lot. Well, that's not helping you. It's just not the kind of hitter he is.
Right. The failure wasn't in signing Dansby. The failure was not signing Trey Turner.
Yeah, you need your ambitions were very Cub. This one's good enough.
Yes.
And they have a whole team full of good enough.
Yeah.
And that's not good enough. It turns out when you take a bunch of players who you think are good enough, you put them together, they're good enough to just play 5. They're a 500 baseball team. That's what they're going to be.
They're an average. They're a team of a bunch of average players, maybe slightly above average, and they're an average or maybe a slightly above average team.
Yeah. And then the only way this works is either if your vaunted farm system suddenly produces a star, and beyond a Pete, like you need Pete to continue to get better, but you need somebody who's going to put up ridiculous like power numbers. because every good team has at least a guy to do that. And the Cubs don't have that. They have a bunch of guys who are going to get 20 homers and drive in 60 to 80 runs.
And it's not, I don't really care how much they drive in, but the point being, they don't have impact players. They don't have an MVP. Like you look at the Braves, you look at the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Padres. All of them have a player who could honestly say going into a year that they're going to be an MVP candidate. Yep. They have Cy Young candidates. Maybe not. Well, maybe the Padres. Maybe not the Padres.
Dodgers don't right now.
The Dodgers don't, but I don't know.
Their injured list does.
Yeah, their injured list.
That's true. And they have a guy.
One of them's not even on the injured list.
Their
best player can't pitch, and he's not even on it.
Correct.
Although now there's some talk. People are like, he's rehabbed enough. Let him pitch in the playoffs. Yeah. Shohei going out and his elbow explodes in the first game of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops.
Yeah,
we can't hit anymore.
But you're kind of right. Like that's the problem is and I don't know. Like I kind of I say it half-heartedly, but like the Cubs need to go out and sign Juan Soto. That's they have to get you. So your options are either hope. And hope is such a great option. Hope that one of your young players turns into a star, or go get one. And what you really need is you go get one, and one of your young players turns into a star.
Right.
One is not really enough.
None of their minor leaguers have a ceiling of an MVP candidate. No. Like you're talking about a 7 or 8 win player, like projected 7 or 8 win player, and none of them are that. Pete Crow, I love Pete Crow. And maybe he can hit his way to a 5 win to be an all-star, like a really, really good player. But you need an MVP. Like you just need somebody going into the year who can honestly point to and say, that guy is at least an MVP candidate unless he can, like, the attrition or failure or whatever happens. But, like, that guy's an MVP candidate.
Yeah, like Cody used to be.
Yeah, well.
Right.
That's what they need. And now I think... Well, my number one source, Bob Nightingale, basically said it's already decided. Cody's coming back. I can't imagine it's already decided, but if I was Cody, it'd be really tough to turn down $27.5 million just to come back and try it again. Given the way the market was last year, and then you put up the numbers, all the people who were like, well, the underlying numbers don't support his stats.
And they did.
And his underlying numbers stayed the same, and his stats all went down.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people looking around going, he's a nice player, but I just have a hunch I'm sure he'll drag it out a little bit, and then he'll be like, I'm coming back. Well, then maybe the Cubs, then you go, well, that's great. Now we're going to try to trade you.
Yeah. Well,
you're one of the few guys we can trade.
Right. And it's not just that. It's like you could go to Scott Boras and say, Cody declines the option, and here's a 15-year, $700 million contract for Soto, right? Isn't Soto rep by Boras? I kind of assume he is, but I could be wrong.
Didn't Soto change?
Oh, is that right?
A bunch of guys.
Hold up.
But the point being, I think you're right. But the other, like I said it on the podcast.
No, it is. It's still Boras.
Like if you go to Bellinger and you go, hey, look, you can come back. Feel free to come back. Your options are you can play out the last 2 years and you pretty much maximize your earning potential at that $55 million that you have left on the contract, whatever it is that he's got, $50 million, whatever he's got left in the contract. You maximize at that because we're giving you 400 plate appearances, and good luck going to the market after that. Or you can try to cash it now, and it may not be $27.5 million a year, but somebody will give him $500 million. I mean, it's an empty market out there, man. Like there's Willie Adames. Like, I mean, I know he's pretty good, but
no, free agency is not a route. They're going to need to make a trade to get somebody.
Well, or you sign Juan Soto. But yes, I agree. Yeah. But not even from a trade perspective, like there's nobody out there. The A's are clean, right? What are you going to get, Brent Rooker? All right. Like
no, I mean I'm amazed nobody wanted him for like the stretch run. I can imagine the A's weren't dangling him.
Yeah,
teams are like, that's fine. We're good.
I mean, the only other guy who you might think about getting is Luis Robert, right? Like not the only other one, but Luis Robert will be available.
If you could depend on Luis Robert to play like 140 games a year, but that's
if somebody
not a guarantee.
If somebody could depend on Louis Robert playing 140 games a year, he'd have gone for a big package at the deadline.
This is true.
And nobody wanted to even mess with it. Like, nah, we'll call you in the offseason and we'll kick the tires then.
Yeah, and I think those guys like him and Crochet are probably better off being traded like I think it's a bit of a fallacy that teams wait till the playoff run to see who would overpay. I think part of it is in the spring or in the winter. Everybody thinks that they're in it pretty much, right? Everybody's got hope. And so I think that you have more suitors depending on what you're asking for.
Well, it's easier, theoretically, it's easier to make a big trade in the offseason because if you open a hole, you have the rest of the offseason to close it. Right. Whereas at the deadline, if the thing you need to give up, like, okay, well, now they need our second baseman and we don't have a second baseman. You can't do that in the pennant race. You can't open a hole in your roster to fill one. But in the offseason, you can.
Yes.
Like you can throw an extra guy in the deal who gets it done, and then you've got 3 months to go replace that guy. Wherein you don't have that option in season.
Well, and I'm just talking from a demand point of view. There's more teams who would be interested in your best. Like the Cubs probably weren't interested in Luis Robert. Just as an example, the Cubs probably wouldn't be interested in Luis Robert this past July, just because they were kind of on the brink of a pennant race, maybe not, who knows. But like in the wintertime, like you'd think that the Cubs would be all in for it, right? I don't know what kind of a deal the Braves would have made at the trade deadline, knowing they had all the injuries and maybe they're in the race, maybe they're not. They're better off kind of giving up a little bit less for Soler. But now in the winter, like for sure the Braves are going to be in probably on one of the top players.
Yeah.
So like, I think there's more teams who can compete for the really good players than there are at the trade deadline.
I do wonder. Like, I'm sorry, Andy. You were waiting to go. So go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, you're right. There are teams who at the deadline are like, well, we're not adding.
For sure. The Braves are a team I do wonder a little bit about what direction they go this offseason, because like they're so. I mean, who knows what happens down the stretch between them and the Mets. Don't really have to include the Cubs in that conversation anymore, even though Marquis, will try to jam them on that graphic all the time.
They're still in it. They're in the hunt.
Still in the hunt. But they've kind of slid back from being like perennial NL East favorites, now that the Phillies have had this awesome year and they have been drowned. They got a lot of injuries this year for sure. And
I would say that the fact they're still, I mean, they're the Mets, so the Braves are still probably likely to make the playoffs, given the fact that so much of their team is not currently ambulatory.
Yeah.
That tells you everything you need about how good that team is. Because those guys are none of them died, as far as I know. I mean, Ozzie Albies and Robert Acuna Jr. they will both be back, and Austin Riley will be back. Yeah. And the pitchers they've lost will be back. The one thing they're going to kick themselves about with this is, with their pitching staff fell apart, and then they got this amazing year out of Chris Sale. And he was supposed to be like their fourth or fifth starter. And you add that to their staff, and they'd be like, we're going to win the World Series. And now they're basically going to have to start him in game one of the playoffs because he's coming out like a pitch. And it's like the idea, the chance that he'll duplicate that next year is not great. But at least they have it this year. I would think if I'm the Braves, part of the reason they signed all those guys for that long is their supposed window of contention is big.
Yes.
And this is a year. And when you open the window, it's because you may have a year where either a couple of guys suck or a couple of guys get hurt, and the next year you're still ready to win again. Yep. Whereas the Cubs are now operating under a thing where it's like, oh no, somebody gets hurt, and it's like, oh no, we're not going to win. They're not barely playing the same sport at this point.
True, but the point I'm making with the Braves is like they also have been a team that have kind of like cycled through a lot of guys. Like they traded away William Contreras to the Brewers. They made the trade. They obviously let Dansby go. They let Freddie Freeman go, although they didn't really intend to let Freddie Freeman go. I wonder maybe if, they put like one or two guys up for shop that, they think they can easily replace this offseason, and maybe like the Cubs swing a deal that way, or like at least a team in a similar position to the Braves that like had previously been a perennial contender that like will still make the playoffs this year, but like maybe didn't exactly live up to the expectations they had for the season.
I disagree. I think that the Braves will probably let Max Fried go, right? He's a free agent, but I don't think there's any chance that they're not going to look at next year as we're competing again.
Yeah.
There's no chance. Like they're so tied in to their like it helped this year that Marcell Ozuna is having some otherworldly, MVP type season. But like the Braves are bought into competing just because they've got both Albies and Acuna in ridiculously cheap contracts.
Yeah.
Austin Riley signed forever. Matt Olson signed forever. Sean Murphy signed forever. Strider they gave a bunch of money to. They get Chris Sale back next year. Like Fried can go, but they've got a couple of pitchers who are might be pretty good. Like I think the Braves are going to go out and they're probably I wouldn't be surprised the Braves went after somebody like Blake Snell, but I think the Braves are going to be all in for next year. I don't think there's any chance that.
And you can kind of see like the way the Braves think. Like Ozuna's having this great year. If the Cubs had Marcell Ozuna having a great year, they'd be like trying to extend him.
Yeah, here's 5 years, $200 billion.
The Braves at the deadline traded for Jorge Soler, knowing they'd have to put him in the outfield for a year, and then he's going to be their DH next year.
Right.
Yeah,
because they feel like Jorge will give us the production Ozuna is likely to slide to next year at a lesser cost.
Yes.
So Marcell can go away.
Yeah.
Take his arrest warrants with him wherever he's going, and Jorge will take over that spot for next year. Because everybody was shocked. Not that the Giants signed Jorge for the 3-year deal. They gave him an extra year just to get him and all that stuff. And when the trade was made, they're like, well, how much are the Giants having to eat? And the Giants like nothing. They took the whole contract. So they took the whole contract. Clearly, the idea is, he's going to be our DH because if you watch him play the outfield right now, it's it's very very interesting.
We saw a good sample of that here.
He didn't play an inning in the outfield for the Giants.
Yeah.
Wow.
I will say, to Praz's point, and to be a contrarian to your point, Andy, I do think there might be a chance that the Braves might look at trading Soler, maybe.
But of course, if they can find somebody that, they're going to have to eat money if they do that. Nobody's going to take his whole contract.
I don't know.
The way teams are these days, it's like
we only got 2 years left. I think that's palatable, and he gives you a little bit of production. Like I don't think it's bad.
And I'm gonna push back a little bit on Jorge's defense. Ask the great Tony Cruz how Jorge's arm is.
2015 NLDS, yeah, that's
threw
true.
him out. It was a great throw, flat-footed in right field, all the way, perfect throw home. Caught Fat Tony sliding into home to kept it tied, I believe, at that point.
He could not do any wrong. Then
Schwarber homered, then Rizzo homered, and then the Braves went home.
Yeah,
or Cardinals.
Cardinals, whatever. I don't say the name Cardinals on this podcast. Like, just call them other teams' names.
That's a slur on this podcast.
The problem Jed's going to have with, obviously, the Cubs need to make a trade to get a player, and his no trade clauses are all coming back to bite him right in the ass, because you'd like to be able to attach one of those guys, because they're. You wouldn't trade Dansby's, I think, untradeable. But Seiya or Happ probably is tradable. But now you gotta sweeten the deal with them. You gotta do it, and I just can't imagine him even bothering. He's one of those guys like, no, they're fine. We'll just keep them.
I think. I meant to bring this up earlier. I don't like the idea of trading Seiya. Like, I think that guy's really good, but I think there's a shot they trade Nico.
Oh, for sure,
absolutely. They're gonna. I would say there's a better. I would be surprised if Nico doesn't get traded. He just doesn't have any moves to make. Nico's one of the few guys he could move that has value.
Exactly.
And whether they hand it over to Matt Shaw next year or they do whatever, they've got to open a spot for somebody.
Yeah.
And you can't move Dansby, and you can't move Happ, and you can't move Seiya, and I would say that the two guys, I would think Bush is a lot less likely to get traded, but it wouldn't shock me if they trade him, because you don't have that many guys you can trade that have any value. You're going to have to trade somebody kind of good to get somebody. And those are the two guys it seems most likely would get traded. Why you could trade Isak again. Why not? Just trade him, move him right along.
Why do you hate Michael Bush?
I think he's a prick. I don't like he looks way too much like Simon Pegg to me. I have a hard time taking him seriously because of that.
Michael Bush is Andy's new Chris Coughlin. Point.
Yeah, but the problem is I hated Coughlin. I don't hate Bush. I don't have any problem with it.
I'm just joking.
A lot of people on Twitter think you hate Bush.
Yeah. Well, a lot of my dates thought I hate. That doesn't make any sense.
Hey, now.
I think there's
what was the dirtiest thing I ever said on TV? Gee, Ward, you were a little hard on the Beaver last night.
Wow.
The Cubs, as usual, are going to be a year too late for any trades, right? And last year when Soto was traded,
that's Jed's move.
Yeah.
Never look ahead. Never okay, this guy's at maximum value. We project that this is as good as it gets. Let's move him along. Nope, never that. Always. Oh, gee, he's not as good as he was. Well, now let's see if we can get pennies on the dollar for him. Good job.
I mean, the thing is that they probably the teams who would be interested in trading for their prospects are teams who may not have anybody left to trade, right? Like you think of the Rays or the A's or
right. It's really hard to
Red
trade
Sox.
prospects for veterans because you need a team that is selling to do that.
yes.
Otherwise, you're trading. Otherwise, the trades that you can make that not enough teams make are the prospect for prospect.
Yes. Well, the
We've got a surplus here. You've got a surplus there. Basically, it's the one good trade he made last year. That's what they did.
Yeah.
The Dodgers
Michael
were going to have
Busch,
to lose Bush
Yeah.
because of the 40-man roster crunch.
Yep.
And
they actually have a real 40-man roster.
yes, they actually do. They sit there
Mhm.
and look at their board and they're like, "Oh shit, these guys are good." The Cubs, they have to justify their own crunch. Well, I don't know. I don't know about this. What if we lose Dylan Maples, or what if we lose Matt Mervis? Oh my God, what are we gonna do? And there are Cub fans who wring their hands about all that shit. I can't believe that guy. That could be amazing. But then sometimes you make the Daniel Palencia over. Why am I forgetting the guy's name?
Jeremiah Estrada.
Yes, you make that decision. But then there's also the idea maybe the Padres just figured out what the fuck to do with Jeremiah Estrada, and you'd have kept him and he'd have looked like Daniel Palencia because that's how you would have used it. So who knows?
The Cubs should trade the three best minor leaguers to the Rays for Andrew Friedman.
Well, Andrew Friedman isn't with the Rays anymore. He's with
The Rays would do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Something for Eric King.
Rays would be like, sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's this custodian we got here, Andrew Friedman. He's retired guy from New York, former rabbi,
Yeah, I'm
Rabbi
sure it's not hard.
Friedman.
It's not hard in Tampa to find a guy named Andrew Friedman to send to the
Right.
Cubs. It would be like, remember when Kenny Williams traded for the wrong Dodger prospect?
Josh
no.
Fields.
No, but I don't remember. I just remember the guy's name. So the Dodgers had two minor leaguers with very similar names, and they worked out a deal with the White Sox. It wasn't a huge trade, but it was a trade. And one of the prospects they got was apparently on the trade sheet, you actually it's not just there's actual numbers to fill out, so you make sure you get the right ones. And the White Sox put the wrong. They looked him up and they picked the wrong guy. And the Dodgers were like, "Oh, we thought we were turning it. Well, that's fine." And then so the paperwork goes through, and then the Sox get their confirmation of who they got, and they're like, "Oh fuck, we got the wrong. There's a mistake here. We got the wrong. We made the mistake. Oh no, that's the guy we wanted all along. Kenny would never admit a mistake. No, that's really the guy we wanted.
Wait, we got the wrong Yordan Alvarez.
Basically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, it kind of that kind of reminds me of do you remember? Leading into 2021, there were all the rumors of Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo and Javier Baez getting traded, and they eventually would be. And the Cubs had a prospect at the time with the last name Bryant that they traded to the Red Sox, and it was I think Jeff Passan may have made the joke Red Sox trade with the Cubs for Bryant. Yeah.
well,
I
Theo,
remember
the Cubs traded Chris Carpenter for Theo.
That's
true.
Yeah. Wait, that Chris Carpenter.
I don't know.
The other Chris Carpenter.
That trade work out? I don't know.
Worked out pretty well.
All right. Well, we'll have plenty of time to hash out the Cubs' wonderful offseason. But I'm still advocating for the Craig Counsell. He can be GM and manager. Just have him do both jobs. $8 million seems about right.
That's not I'm gonna be thinking about that for the next couple of weeks until we have this podcast again.
For sure.
They can make Willie Harris the manager, just so I don't have to watch him roll around in the grass by third base. It's maybe they'd be a better base running team if you actually stood up so they could see you. Maybe that would work? No? You have to lay on your belly in the grass to get them to slide? How is that a thing?
Did you see, I don't know how long ago this was, because I saw a Facebook reel or TikTok about it. The whole Blue Jays Yankees thing about the third base coaches not standing in the coach's box because they were trying to get a look at the grip that the pitcher had.
Well, got to steal signs any way you can these days.
Yeah. And then apparently they were like signaling back, and it was like somebody caught him doing it. It was.
You remember when
looked over? Like
when Renee Latchman was the third base coach for the Cardinals when McGuire was all roided to the gills?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't, especially in Wrigley, he wouldn't stand in the coach's box. He would basically stand almost by the dugout railing to try to get out of the way if McGuire pulled one and was going to kill him. And there were teams would complain and umps would like try to make it. He would basically stand there and go, "Fuck no, I'm not going to do it." You basically like you stand there, see you give that a shot. There's nothing for me to do. I'm just going to stand over here for now. I'll run over there if I need to wave at somebody. It'll be fine.
Oh man.
Renee Latchman was a Cub interim manager, right?
For like one game in 2002, right?
Yeah.
Or no, was that a different guy?
I don't remember what year.
Were you about to say, speaking of interim managers?
Yeah. Speaking of interim, let's talk about a team that's never had an interim head coach. Your 1-1 Chicago Bears. Was it that transparent where I was heading with that? It just came to me. It just came to me.
Exactly what through my head when Praz mentioned it.
The Bears, fresh off an exciting loss to the Texans on Sunday Night Football. Apparently, a lot of doom and gloom about a team with a kick-ass defense that has some work to do on the offense. But I'm with all the people who I knew all along Caleb was going to suck, and I was right. He's terrible.
And
it's over, and it's time to go Tyson Bagent, or maybe we just tank and we can all pick Quinn Ewers with the first pick in the draft. Let's start this all over again. It's going to be great. I'm just going to throw this out to you guys. Am I crazy, or I didn't think he played that bad against the Texans? I mean,
I didn't think so either.
Early in the game when they actually were protecting him, he completed 11 of his first 12 passes.
Yeah.
Late in the game, he got sacked 7 times because the Bears could not remember how to pick up a blitz. And they're like, "Oh, but you missed that throw to DeAndre Carter that could have been a touchdown." Yeah, he did miss it. I'm sure no quarterback's ever missed a throw before. He also was probably had a helmet in his pelvis at the time he was throwing the pass. I don't know.
Right.
And Nate Tice had a whole thread of Caleb's pre-snap stuff where he was showing how, you worry about a rookie quarterback being overwhelmed by, like, they don't understand what they're looking at. I mean, that was Mitch, right? Mitch looked at the defense and he didn't know, and he's like, he's making the right checks. He's getting out of plays. He's looking when he changes the play, the primary receiver he looks at first is the right guy. It's like he clearly changed the play to try to get the ball to this guy. And it's like, it's been 2 fucking games. It's like, can we just calm down? I mean, this is so Bears and Bears fan. Yeah. It's just, it's like, come on.
No, Andy, we can't comment on. No, Andy, we can't.
No, you're right. Let's bring in the guys from Chuggo let's bitch for an hour about whatever.
Greg Braggs, how you guys doing?
I was listening to the score. Like every morning, I take a short little drive to Starbucks just to kind of get out of the house after I walk the dog. And I'm listening to the score, and they were talking about. I turned it off after about 2 minutes of this. Somebody at the Titans said that that Caleb Williams seemed nervous or kind of like too hyped up or something like that. It was just like very uneasy about making the calls and stuff like that. And then so they went off on that. And of
course they did. That's catnip to those fuckers.
Yeah.
If you get Mully, Huch, and Dan Weirderer in a room together, they'll just feed on that stuff. Like, we want a quarterback, and then when we get one, we can't wait to talk about how much they suck. Yeah. Caleb and the Floos talked about how in the first game his mechanics were all a little too fast.
Right.
And that's why he missed some throws that he should have made.
Yeah.
You mentioned it on the solo podcast that like he was getting a little too like hyped up instead of getting nervous more than anything. So,
yes. He was excited. He was playing his first game and everything. And there were former quarterbacks and other people who talked about it and said the difference in the game between your last preseason game and your first real game, it's noticeably different. And you have to just get used to it. And well, I mean, they gave him a whole game to get used to it. That's enough. Apparently, that's fine. My biggest problem with the Bears offense is not their quarterback. And it's not necessarily, I mean, obviously the line is not good, but I don't know why. You change coordinators, you change everything, and the same shit stays the same. Why can't they ever actually just line up with the quarterback under center and hand the ball off to the running back? Why do we always have to be in the shotgun? And why does the running back always have to be coming from a dead stop and then start running after they get the handoff? Which means your challenged offensive line actually has to hold the block longer because the whole play takes just a little bit longer to get started. And it's like, and I mean, my big fix for the Bears, this is my advice to the Bears, would be you paid DeAndre Swift. He's on your team. There's certain things he does really well, but he should be splitting those carries with Khalil Herbert because Herbert is a good running back.
Yeah.
And he's more of a between the tackles guy. And that doesn't mean every time Herbert's in, you got to run between tackles. It doesn't mean every time Swift is in, you're going to throw to Swift. But just rotate those two guys so that you're showing a different attack to the defense and give yourself some different options. It doesn't seem that complicated.
Well, and they made it super obvious too that like every time they had Travis Homer in there next to Caleb Williams, like was only ever in there for pass protection.
Yeah.
Like never really mixed it up with anything. Yeah.
I don't understand the need to ever have Travis Homer. Now, the first week that Roschon Johnson wasn't active.
Right.
But when Roschon is active, that's who should be in there because he's a run threat and he's a good pass protector. You don't need Travis Homer's your little special team guy. Just have him do that.
Yeah. That's my question. Am I missing something? Did Roschon Johnson start to suck? Like, I know he wasn't great last year. Like, he was a rookie running back, but why? I don't know. Is he not good? Am I missing something?
I don't know if it's, Homer played for Waldron and Waldron trusts him and he thinks he knows the offense better. And that early in the season, he wants to go with him. But it's like, he's not as good a running back. Play the better running back. If Roschon is active, Roschon should get those plays, not Travis Homer. Yeah. That just seems like a waste of plays.
I don't think we're at the point where we can label like Shane Waldron as not good at his job yet, but there's definitely been some questionable personnel decisions with him so far. I mean, week one you had it where Gerald Everett played more snaps than Cole Kmet did. You had
I'm glad you brought that up because I could give two shits about how much Cole Kmet plays. If Cole's not, it's not like he's a bad football player, but he's Cole Kmet. I mean, I will reserve. If somebody wants to convince me that they think Gerald Everett's a better player than Cole Kmet, I'll be like, okay, I guess that's fine. When I saw that, and they were like, Hogue was going nuts. And of course, it's not like Hogue hosts a podcast with Cole Kmet or anything. He was going nuts about how little he played. And it's like, is this 1983 Kellen Winslow that's on the bench? It's like, no, it's Cole Kmet. Like, he played, right? It's fine. Yeah, I heard that and went, oh, for fuck's sake. This is what we're complaining about, is how much one tight end played over the other. I mean, nobody complained when Emory Moorhead got more snaps than Jay Saldy.
Before my time, for fair, yeah.
Pat Dunsmore. We need more Pat Dunsmore in this offense. What the hell? That's the argument.
Not on my fantasy team.
Well, no, I mean they went back. He got plenty. He got the chance to catch a ball and get a concussion on Sunday night. That was fun for him. And then I have the personal foul call back because I love this rule in the NFL, right? So if you hit a guy in the helmet with your helmet, that's a penalty. If you bash a guy in the head with your forearm, that's fine. That's okay. You didn't use your head. You only hit him in the back of the head with your forearm as hard as you could. That's not a penalty.
Yeah, NFL really taking concussion protocol seriously there.
I also enjoyed apparently the loophole that you can punch somebody on the sidelines, and if a ref doesn't see it, even though the world sees it, and you have these guys in New York who can like help, they can't. Like, I've honestly thought, okay, make the rule this. There is no penalty because the ref didn't call it. He still gets thrown out because you saw him punch a dude in the face. He punched.
Correct.
They had that guy punch Roschon at least Roschon was married. And Roschon is literally just standing there.
Yep.
And he looks at him, he gets hit in the face mask. Like, what the fuck did you hit me for? I wasn't doing anything. I'm just
He's not even active in the game. What are you doing?
No, he was active. He was active this week. Otherwise, I don't think he had a helmet on. The only inactive guy who wears his full uniform is Russell Wilson.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that got
Seriously.
explained. The reason Russell was inactive for the last 2 weeks and wore his uniform is he was the emergency quarterback.
Right.
So there were people that were making fun of him, like, "Oh, what a dork! He's not even active, and he's still wearing the whole uniform." It's like, well, he actually could play.
Yeah.
So, would you rather, like the emergency goalie? Would you have to stop the game so he can run into the locker room and put his equipment on and then come running back out? I don't think they would do that.
I actually think in the NHL they do that. Like, I don't think in the NHL, like, because there's one emergency goalie for both teams, right?
Yeah. Don't they only like? Well, yeah, you couldn't. I mean, you could put your equipment on, but wouldn't they only do that if like a goalie gets hurt?
Yeah.
Kind of on high alert.
Yeah.
And you're like, you might want to get your shit on just in case. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they just sit there and eat hot dogs and drink beer and watch the game like everybody else.
There is one other guy who wears his full uniform without being active, and that's Ronnie Wu.
Yes. Yes, there is.
Well, active in the sense that he like is. I don't know. I could make a really bad joke. I don't want to go there.
The other thing I want to complain about the Bears offense is a complaint that is not unique to the Bears. It bothers me all around football, but the Bears do it. Is I don't understand this whole thing about when they'll put like 3 receivers to one side, but they'll all be standing within like 3 yards of the tight end.
Yes.
And it's like, and you watch, and you could literally just like draw a little box around the entire defense. Like, look, they are all within 5 yards of the ball. Maybe spread your offense out a little bit so they have to go out and you can actually create a lane for somebody to run through.
Exactly.
And they're not alone. A lot of teams do it. It's funny, though. All these teams that have some kind of variation of the Shanahan, McVay offense like to do this with 2 notable exceptions. The Niners and the Rams. The original guys don't do it. But like the Packers love to do it, and the Vikings do it, and the Bears do it, and everybody. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, is that your little thing? Like when they were like assistants, they all sat around. Wouldn't this be? Look at this. We'll draw this up. We'll put these guys real close. And then they'll go in a bunch of different ways, and nobody will know who to cover. It's like, yeah. Well, also the whole defense would be standing right there. Like, here, just send somebody through so we can tackle them. I don't understand. But I'm just a simple caveman. I don't understand your modern ways.
You know what is really good about the Bears offense? The defense.
Well, and Cairo Santos.
And, well, do we include this part of the offense in our sweet boy, Torrey Taylor? Punter?
Can I tell you that I have not been terribly impressed yet with Torrey Taylor?
Really?
It's like, Maury Buford could have done that. The one time the Bears were really deep, and I thought, all right, now we're going to see Torrey. Torrey's going to let this one eat. This is going to be 80 yards in the air. This is going to be awesome. 52-yard punt. It's like, okay, that's nice. That's great. I was promised like rocket-legged. Yeah. I wanted you to hit the scoreboard and have it still end up in the other team's end zone. Like, come on, Aussie dipshit. Like, and this is supposed to be exciting. You're just a normal punter.
Well,
big deal.
I know he's got a big leg, but I think part of it is that he's so good.
Yes. And he had a punt against the Texans the other night that literally dropped and took a left-hand turn out of bounds.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I want to see the big. I want to see the big leg. That's what I want to see. I get all excited. I literally sit on the edge of my little chair and I like start to jump up and down. And then it's like, oh, that's 50 yards. No big deal. Pat O'Donnell used to kick up 50 yards.
50 yards.
I want something exciting. I do want to see him. Not that I want to see a team get a good punt return, but I want to see Torrey just destroy some. He's a big dude. I want to see him like just cry. And he probably turned out that he can't. Like he just falls down and a guy runs over. But he's an Australian rules football player.
Just he should know how to like in his legs.
I want to see him smashing somebody's head into the turf if you dare to get through the line on Torrey Taylor. Now Torrey's been fine, but I'm waiting for the waiting for the big kick. Me and Jeff Joniak, we're both very excited. We're just waiting. Now you won't know how many yards.
Right.
You won't know how many yards.
Exactly. Yep.
Has he said punt another shrimp on the Barbie yet? Have we heard that? No, we haven't. He hasn't used it.
The first week I was up in Milwaukee watching the game, and last week was obviously Sunday night game, so I had to watch it.
Okay. So I try not to. I try not to take in the radio feed because I would just get really mad. Speaking of other people's podcasts, he was on Hogan Johns last week.
Okay.
And he was there talking about, they like him because I guess I seem to think Jeff's a nice dude. But they're going on and on about he's got an office in Hallis Hall. Did you know that? He's a Bears employee.
Oh my god!
Because he worked the radio guy right now. So he's got a.
That would make sense because he stayed from WBBM to now ESPN. So
he's got an office there, and he's apparently always in there, and he's working hard. He's doing research. He's doing whatever. I'm like, all right, could some of the research be, just a sticky note? Give the fucking score once in a while, or what yard line is the ball on? Could that be a sticky? Could that be part of the research? Like when he watches back, does he ever listen to himself and be like, okay, how would anybody know where the ball is?
Well, just put up what he needs is a picture of the football field and the yardage markers so that he can practice. Like, that's where the 20-yard line is. Oh,
did anybody
not the pattern of the numbering system?
Speaking of like they have the little like tents on the sidelines with the yard lines on them.
Right.
Was anybody like really disappointed that the dude who took a header didn't get hit by anybody? He just tripped over it and hit his head on the ground. Right. I felt bad for him because if you're going to go off on a stretcher, you want a story about. Well, I was trying to get out of the way. But Montez Sweat just came flying through the air and I couldn't get out of the way. His story is, well, I took a half step back and I tripped over the thing behind me and I somehow couldn't like defend myself at all, and I crashed my head into the turf and I blacked out.
And he can't even lie about it because it's on video.
Yeah,
right. It was a weird day league wide for like chain gang guys. I remember seeing on Red Zone a lot of delays the actual like reason of them being like hit by other players.
Yeah. Where is the magic chip in the football that they used in the preseason in some games? This is supposed to get rid of. They had like a Hawkeye for first downs. It was really cool. They put it up everybody could see it up on the Jumbotron.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, this is coming this year. It's like, all right, well, is it? Because there's back to the stupid, here it is. We've got 2 poles, 10 feet, with a 10-foot chain. It's ridiculous that we, 2 of our favorite sports, one where, batters can barely see the ball fly by. We expect these old, these dopey fucking umps to be able to call all these pitches. And in football where they, everything is measured down to the last centimeter, and the way they spot the ball is the ref is like, probably right here. And then if they need a message, it's just 2 guys with a chain that come out and go, that's short.
And as you hinted at, not just that, we're relying on the old fashioned way, but we have the new technology to really actually fix it. And both sports don't really want to go down that road.
Well, the NFL seems to be like ready, but apparently they don't think the technology is ready. And I'm guaranteed that's going to be sponsored, and that's going to be lots of money every time they show it on the thing. They're going to be measuring balls that are clearly first downs, just so the sponsor gets more of a, we got to do 3 more of these tonight. It's like he gained 14 yards on 3rd and 6. Measure it. Okay, fine. He got it by 6 yards.
Brought to you by adult diapers.
So that brings up spotting the ball, brings up a massive frustration from the game on Sunday night, which is, do you guys believe my theory that the person the Bears have assigned to monitor the replays and tell Flus whether to throw the challenge flag is George McCaskey?
So I will say this: what I feel, and it may not make sense just because I know that you lose a challenge anyway, but I feel on that first challenge on Sunday, Flus was going to call a timeout anyway.
So he just decided you might as well use.
Might as well challenge us just to see, because I feel like he was going to call a timeout anyway.
Well, because the rule changed, right? So if you get either, it used to be you had to get both challenges right to get the extra challenge. Is that right?
No, I still think it's as long as you get one.
And now it's if you get one right, you automatically get a 3rd challenge, I think.
Yeah, I think
really?
Every time you don't lose.
Oh, he didn't, because I think it was if you got 2 right, then you got a 3rd. You wouldn't do that because you were going to get the first one wrong. But now I think the rules changed somehow.
Yeah,
and it does make it that first. If you want to use the challenge in the first half, it's not as big a deal as
that's the whole of the hypothesis.
But that one wasn't even close.
Right.
Right.
I mean, as soon as you saw one replay, you're like,
very clearly both feet in bounds. Exactly.
Yeah. I was hoping that maybe he bobbled it after, he didn't, I don't know, whatever the football move.
I still think the Bears got fucked on the Texans challenge because this whole thing. I love how Collinsworth and they have Terry McCauley. I think they're watching the replay and he clearly has possession of the ball as his foot is just leaving the ground. It's like there's no fucking clearly about.
Ball's in midair. Right? No. Yeah. What are you talking about?
So I think the Texans should have lost that challenge. That would have been the Bears would have got. They would have had to punt to the Bears. And then the Flus did get. He shouldn't have challenged it, but he got screwed on the Kyler when he had almost made that. Kyler Gordon almost made that incredible interception.
Yes,
because refs are supposed to just let that play go, because if it's a turnover, then it's an automatic challenge, and they can automatically go, nope, he trapped it, and the ball stays there, and they blew it dead on the field. Now, Flus, you can't waste your last challenge on that, because even when they showed the replay, then it turns out actually twice the ball hit the ground, not just once. But the mechanics of the game, the refs are the Bears shouldn't have had to challenge that.
Right.
It should have been automatically challenged.
I didn't mind that second challenge as much, just because I thought maybe I have the interpretation of the rule wrong, but like, he makes the catch and he has a knee down. I would have thought that after that, no matter what he does, if the ball hits the ground after that it's still considered to be an interception.
He's not down because nobody was touching him. And so he could have still got up, and you still have to complete the catch, whatever the ridiculous. It's amazing. Nobody knows what the process of the catch actually is. Though, here's the rule. We talked about this last year, but here's the rule that drives me nuts that they've complicated. Is now, in order for them to stop the clock, if you run out of bounds, you have to be going forward when you go out of bounds. Why did we add this? Why another thing to interpret for refs? Whether the guy, if you go out of bounds, you're out of bounds. That's the whole thing.
Right.
What fan doesn't want, isn't it good for the game for them to, for a team trying to catch up, to be able to get out of bounds and buy an extra play or two? Is there anybody who's really like, it was more fun if that clock just ran? That would be great there. The only fans that want that are the teams whose team is ahead. If you go out of bounds, the clock should stop. It doesn't seem that complicated.
Well, I think it's the corollary. Is corollary the right word I'm looking for? Anyway, I think it's not about whether you go out of bounds or not. It's they now rule you down. They give you the forward progress.
No, well,
you can't have it both ways.
This is a different, but
offense.
Well, maybe this is it's the Cowboys. So first the Cowboys had they tried to down the ball and then get it, and they couldn't, and that was Tony Romo
playoff game. Yeah.
So then the very next year in the playoffs against the 49ers, they're having this frantic comeback, and
this is what I was thinking of. Never mind.
And so Dak throws a pass out to Dalton Schultz, who catches it, goes sideways out of bounds. Now, Troy, doing the game, was like, that clock shouldn't stop. He wasn't going forwards. And you're sitting at home like, he's out of bounds. Just just stop the clock.
Yeah.
Why are we going to, they talk about how, there's so many mistakes by the refs, and then they go out of their way to make the rules more complicated, or they make the rules more open to interpretation.
Yeah.
It's like, this should be the opposite. Like, honestly, just from a football standpoint, anything that looks like a catch should be a catch.
Right.
If you think, it all goes back to the Des Bryant thing. It's the Packers, which was clearly a touchdown, but it's like, by the letter of the rule, it wasn't, or whatever. It's like, we just want cool stuff. So if a guy makes a sliding catch and the tip of the ball just barely touches the ground, who gives a shit? It's a catch. If you go out of bounds because you're frantically trying to, have a 2-minute drill at the end of the game, just stop the clock.
Right.
Supposedly this is entertainment, right?
Yeah.
This is just make the rules more obvious for the refs and for us.
Well, with gambling, it's a little bit. I think there's a little bit more on the line. But but
remember, there's always somebody. Every time a bad beat is also an incredible win for somebody else.
True. Good point.
There's money on both sides. So,
yeah, I'm sure
it goes back to the who was the Detroit Calvin Johnson to that catch against the Bears.
I was just
that one.
Of
that
this
one
too.
was
Yes.
that one was fine. That was fine.
That exactly. That was very clearly a drop.
I literally, because that was like the first one of those two. I remember watching home like, why are we reviewing this?
Right.
And then I couldn't believe they came back and they said, because that's one where he goes out of bounds with it in one hand and he runs into a cheerleader and drops it. It was ridiculous. Yeah. And they're like, oh no, he didn't say, oh Jesus.
I mean, to be fair to your point, that was a good call.
It worked out fine.
Yeah.
For one, Bears
the only good call.
All the wins we could get.
Yeah.
Kind of like now.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I do think I think the point of that isn't that you're going out. But now I agree. If nobody touches you and you go out of bounds, just whatever, right? That's right. But if you're in a pot, from an offensive standpoint, you can't have it both ways where you get the forward progress and you go out of bounds backwards. And right,
but see that. But to me, that's different. That's if they want to say your forward progress stopped while you were still on the field.
Yeah.
Then roll the clock.
Well, but that's
this is literally the Dalton Schultz one. He caught a pass and just ran out of bounds, and it's the same rule. They're like, no, you have to be going you have to be going at least a little bit forward when you go out of bounds, and we're going to roll the clock.
Just take one step forward.
What happened that we decided this rule had to change?
Yeah. No, I agree, but but that's I think the point is that if you're now that they're very clear about you get the forward progress, then that's it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
But it happened to, Komet was going forward, right? That was when I thought, oh no, they're going to roll the clock, and they stopped. Because the amazing thing about that game still was the Bears get the ball back, and they have a chance to go down and win. And then I actually thought, actually, there's two things. Number one, Flus, impeccable strategy, kick the field goal because you need 10 points, right. And it has nothing to do with the fact that made I had 6.5. I had the Bears covering 6.5, and that made it 6. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with that's like Madden strategy, right? I mean, it's like, okay, well, I'll just kick the field goal here. I'll get the onside kick, and I'll score a touchdown. And I'll beat you in the last second. So that was good.
But now there's no onside kicks, really.
No, there are onside kicks, but there are no surprise onside kicks.
Right. You have to tell them, and then they go back to the old spot, and it looks weird because now they're back in the old spot.
Right.
They really need the rule that needs to pair with the new kickoff is the 4th and 15, where they put you on like the 25, and they make it. You get one down to gain 15 yards, and if you get the 15 yards or more, you just keep playing from that spot.
Who was that former coach that came up with that? That had like the player that got paralyzed. Schiano, right? Wasn't that Greg Schiano's whole ideal? Yeah.
I figured it was Wani. Innovative play, innovation from Dave Wanstead. What about 4th and 15? I haven't caught the marquee post game yet because I keep meaning to because I want to know what Robbie Gould thinks about the game at the end.
I'll take a pass. There's one piece of programming I watch marquee for, and it'll be going away soon.
Pickleball, pro pickleball.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that on like
pro
Sunday
pickleball.
Mornings at 8?
No, it's that stupid VSiN
ACC,
Show Me the Money
ACC
show.
Football.
Yeah.
They had Mookie Betts mic'd up doing the interview on Sunday Night Baseball. Was it Sunday Night Baseball? Must have been. Why was I watching this of the Bears? I don't remember how it was, but I was listening to it, and apparently Mookie Betts, the pickleball player.
Oh, well, what can he do?
That guy just plays every recreational sport.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He just goes out and plays pickleball like with random strangers in L.A.
He's bowling 300 games whenever he wants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just decided to play shortstop. That's over. We're not doing that anymore.
He wasn't bad, was he? Didn't seem
no, he wasn't. I think they said when he got hurt, it's like maybe they kind of had a chance to sit down. Like, maybe he's a really good right fielder.
Like, don't put him at risk of, having a double play broken up, guy sliding too hard or something like that.
But anyway, the point is, the reason why the Bears were still in the game is, it was because of Taylor and because of the defense.
Yeah.
The defense is really good. They're fun to watch.
Because that Texans offense is really good.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
It is. That was probably the best defensive performance the Bears have had under Eberflus against I don't know if we're ready to call C.J. Stroud an elite quarterback, but he's
pretty good,
promising young quarterback, I would say. Yeah.
Did I see that Gervin Dexter led them in defensive snaps and on the line?
He might have. He's turned into a good player.
I also like it. Just one more making fun of Andy. You called Billings.
Yeah, Billingsley, because he's Peter Billingsley's kid.
Dad Billingsley is the pitcher for the Dodgers. Andrew Billings.
His dad is Ralphie from A Christmas Story. Peter Billingsley. I knew when I said it, and I was like, should I go back and change it? I'm just plowing through. Yes, Andrew Billings.
I like it. You just kept going with it.
Juggernaut.
I'm walking.
That's his nickname. I know his nickname, for God's sakes. He's Juggernaut. Eberflus calls him that.
You're thinking of Chad.
But this was another instance of after halftime, the Texans didn't do shit.
Yeah.
The only time they got close to a touchdown was after one of the interceptions, and it was like, if you don't get a turnover here, you're going to lose. And what do you know? The Bears forced a turnover, and they stayed in the game. Yeah, the defense is really good.
That defense is really good.
And it's not. Good.
And I like Gervin Dexter. That guy.
Yeah.
That guy's going to
They just throw a lot, and they just throw a lot of good players at an offense. There are really good players at all three levels. And even like little Jack Sanborn, they let him play the first snap of the game. He bats a pass down that would have been like a 30-yard gain.
Yep. That was a hell of a play. I think what they did on the defensive line is they just rotate through. I mean, they have a really good like four-man rotation on the interior. They have a couple of guys. I mean, Montez Sweat and who's the guy they got from
Darryl
Seattle?
Taylor.
Yeah,
Darryl Taylor.
Yeah.
And I think what they just tire out the offensive line of the other team.
Yeah.
Our offensive line sucks too, but and it's just this incredible like rotation that they have, and they just get through it. It's fun.
So what was I think the Texans scored on the first play of the second quarter.
Is that right? And then
after Courtney Cronin she was pointing out the fact that even after that, they had the rotation had done the play where he scored. Montez, Gervon Dexter, or Gervin, you can call him whatever you want. Like, you make fun of me for calling him Billy.
Soft G.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
And there was another guy. Three of their best defenders had weren't on the field. And the whole kind of thing was, I don't know what your rotation is, but after everybody stood around for 5 minutes for a commercial, you probably could put the best guys back in.
Right.
And she's not wrong. It happened. Remember last year when they lost, and the big play against the Browns, Poles apparently lost his shit because Montez wasn't on the field for that play. And Eberflus, apparently his explanation was, well, he rotated out. And Poles is like, well, I think you ought to be able to adjust the rotation for like the most important play of the game.
Right.
Like maybe he gets one extra snap because it's 3rd and 18 and we need somebody to sit on Joe Flacco's head. But yeah, it is a strength of theirs that they have in some of the areas where they don't have like the star player, they've got good depth. And so they can kind of beat you down by attrition in those spots.
Yep.
For sure.
Now, if only that Pickens guy could play center also, that would be fun.
Oh, poor little Coleman Shelton.
Oh, God.
It's funny. He lost the only reason he's not with the Rams, because he was a good center for the Rams, is they just thought he was too small. And they're like, against some of the fronts we face, especially the Niners, they're like, he's a good player, but he's too little. We need a bigger center. And that's why he was available. And so in the very first game, he ends up having to face the two of the biggest, meanest dudes.
Jeffrey Simmons, right?
And then the 370-pound Tavondre Sweat.
The other Sweat.
And I thought Chris Collinsworth actually thought was pretty lucid for much of the game. He pointed out that the Texans had literally changed their front, where they normally don't make the center block anybody, where they always made Shelton have to block somebody so he couldn't go help with either guard. And that was opening up paths for guys because like and this is not unique to the Bears, but on a lot of teams, your center, after they snap the ball, they're like, okay, where's the overload? I'm going to go help.
Against a 40
and Coleman
front,
could never go do it because he always had some big dude who was shoving him into the grass or the turf. And that's not great.
No.
And that I think is a lot. You have to call plays for the line you have, not the line you wish you have. And the Bears offensive line is certainly not a strength, but they're not we've seen there've been a lot worse Bear offensive lines than this one.
Oh, definitely.
So you simply have to scheme to what they actually can do. And I wrote about this. The one thing that does worry me about, everybody's while offensive coordinators have changed, the offensive line coach has stayed the same, Chris Morgan. And around the league, he's super highly thought of, and the Bears love him and whatever. But it's like, how come there's so many times that the offensive line just clearly doesn't know who the fuck to block?
Yeah.
And isn't the responsibility of that the guy who coaches them all the time? I mean, there's videos of like Nate Davis, like kind of looking around, kind of like that John Travolta thing where he's like looking at both sides. And there's just guys running past him. It's like, Nate, just fucking pick one. You got to block somebody, at least get in somebody's way. And that's
was it him that was on that clip that was going around Twitter of like him just kind of going off in his space?
Yes. He doesn't block anybody at the snap, and then he runs down the field a little bit, and then he kind of stops, and a guy runs right by him and makes a tackle.
Yep.
And then Darnell Wright, who's supposed to be their good one, on the play where Danielle Hunter nearly killed Caleb, he missed him by like 3 feet.
Yeah.
Like he got crossed over and was going to and then he fell down in the lane in a basketball. And it's like, Jesus, how does that happen? So they've got, a lot of work to do. And they do, they're going to have to continue to invest. They have to get better players. But
yes,
the line they have right now shouldn't be as bad as we've seen it the first 2 weeks.
That's right.
To me, that's a combination of scheme and coaching. There's got to be things these guys can do because they're not, they're NFL caliber linemen. They're not star linemen. It would be nice to have one or two
Tevin
Zach Martins.
Do that.
Right.
Tevin Jenkins is probably a Pro Bowler if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
Darnold Wright is good despite of what and the Texans have a good defensive line. You could go down and
everybody can have a bad, but that was a really bad.
It was
play.
Well, that one play where you had where they stunted, where whoever it was came right up the middle on Caleb, and they showed Shelton kind of triple teaming the guy next to him.
Oh, that in the Titans game.
Hole that opened up.
Yeah, that was terrible. I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
It's like I do think those two guys probably have that one guy taking care of it. If nothing else, just stay where you are.
Yeah.
And just, don't just, he's like, I don't know the block. I'll just go over here. And then he just opened you could have driven a truck through that. And there's Caleb like, oh, where the fuck did this guy come from? It's like, well, that's where he came from.
Oh, man. We haven't seen any of the Yale kid, right? Amagaji at all?
I don't even think he's practicing yet. They took him off injured reserve because they had to, because they didn't want to season long him. He might be on the 4-week one right now. I don't know. Maybe he's practicing. We haven't seen him. I can't imagine.
He's not ready.
I can't imagine that even if he's healthy, that you're going to take. Yale's basically Division III. You're going to take a division. He's got the traits. He's got the size.
Yeah.
But I don't think the plan was that he was going to help. The guard who you're going to see if they have to go to their next guard to replace Nate, especially if Base can't come back, is Bill Murray.
Very nice.
That's the next guard they have.
That's
is
right.
Bill. I want him when he's on the sidelines to wear that hat with the flaps. That the other Bill Murray wore on the sidelines during the NFC Championship game. Yeah.
Or
he's got to just walk around and go refrigerator over and over
refrigerator again. Or the white hat that Bill Murray had in Caddyshack as Carl Speckler.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Just a bucket hat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would think if you think the starters are bad, looking forward to the backups is probably not a plan.
Well, the one thing that would be nice is if he was healthy enough to play this week, it may be a little bit of, a softer landing for him. The Colts defense is not that great against the run. So I don't know.
Are you talking about the Yale guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think if you're waiting for the Kieran Amagaji era, I think you're a year early.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he played. Although who knows? We've seen all kinds of guys suit up for the Bears.
Rex Jones was a 5th-round pick, right?
Well, Kieran's a 3rd, right?
Yeah, that's right.
4th. Or no, third. You're right.
You got the punter in the 4th.
Yeah.
4th was Torrey Taylor. That's right. I should have known that.
I just think that's a big step up to go from the Ivy League to to not practice. You go from the Ivy League to not being able to practice in minicamp to not being able to practice in camp, and then week 3 they're like, all right, go get him. You're ready. I just have a hard time thinking that. At week 12, I'd still be a little worried. He got hurt, didn't he?
Oh, did he? Is he hurt?
Yeah, I think he got carted off against the Packers.
Oh,
that would be when he should take the week off.
Are you guys doing a remember the scrap about the Colts? Have you done one yet on the Colts?
There may have been.
Donnie, you didn't think there was anybody unique on the schedule.
The AFC teams are, a little more spread out, but
I honestly don't remember the Colts one.
We could do one in arrears. We could do one next week. Nobody's going to care. That's you waited a week. I wasn't ready for the game because you didn't talk about their matchup in 1979 when Burt Jones fell down the stairs. No, I know we did the Colts, and the reason I know we did the Colts is because we talked about Ditka breaking his hand punching the locker
with
after the last game the Bears played in Memorial Stadium
with you breaking the lamp with your football, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we've done the Colts.
Okay.
We could probably do them again. All right. Well, I checked out according to the Hard Rock Casino and Sportsbook here in Rockford.
Okay. I wish people could have seen the face you just made.
Well, if they want to sponsor, that's fine. I haven't been in there yet. Apparently, the Sportsbook is very nice.
All right.
I mean, I don't really have a need to go to a sportsbook because I have a phone.
Right.
But apparently the food's good, and so some Saturday I'll wander in and
Well, it might be fun to go watch
college football, and I don't know that I'd want to be around Rockford Bear fans. There'd be too many. Honestly, there'd be way too many fucking Packer fans.
Exactly.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
This is pretty 50-50.
All right.
Down here, up here, wherever we are. Down here, it's not like a Canadian. Colts favored by 1.5.
That means if you think that the home team automatically gives 3 points, that means
the Bears are actually favored by a 1.5, according to Vegas.
They had to be favored against the Packers with Malik Willis starting, but if you're a team that just lost to Malik Willis, granted, I don't know how much Malik Willis really did in that game.
He did nothing.
I don't know.
They didn't let him do anything, and that's what he did.
So
he didn't do anything bad, but he didn't do anything good. He was just there.
So you were favored against a team that you probably should have beaten, and now you're going to face a pretty respectable defense and an offense that has the number 1 overall pick that has something to prove. I'm kind of surprised that the Bears aren't the favorite there. Plus, I think
Colts did.
Sorry, go ahead.
Colts did score 27 points against the Texans.
Did score 27 points against the Texans.
They lost 29-27, and they should have won. Anthony Richardson had some great plays, but he also had like a 3rd and 8 where he had a receiver wide open in the end zone, and he threw it into the stands. And he didn't throw it away. He was throwing it to him, and it ended up in the stands. Wow. And they had to kick a field goal, and they ended up losing the game by 2 points. He can be a little erratic from times. He also can be amazing.
Yeah.
But he can also be, he's a guy that I would imagine that the Bears will take the ball away from.
That'll be nice.
More than once.
The one thing about the Texans is that I don't think that their secondary is that great.
Yeah, well, the Bears wouldn't know because they
they never really had a chance.
Caleb
to test
was under
it.
a pile before. Yeah.
Right. No, I agree. But I guess my point being is that it's the Colts' strength, right? Their offense versus a strength of the Bears, right? The secondary, and I mean the Bears' secondary is really good. It's really good.
It's really good.
So
when Tyreek Stevenson is your weak link, you're really good.
Yeah,
he's good. How about Tyreek poking Nico Collins in the face and drawing his own unsportsmanlike conduct penalty?
Mm-hmm. Isn't that great?
Sadly, Nico Collins made him pay on the exact next play, but
the very next play, and he basically slammed him into the end zone. For extra effort. Here's your 15 yards. I like Tyreek. He still didn't put up any. He doesn't put up with any shit, even when he gets slammed into the end zone.
I like that whole secondary is good. So I feel like this game is made for the Bears to win.
I agree. I have to me you're giving me points and the Bears. You're giving me money.
Yeah,
and
I'll take it.
I feel like this will be a fairly Bears heavy crowd, not that far of a road trip. Yeah. I don't know what the
one where
Colts really draw
the
these
Colts
days.
might have to use the silent count, not the Bears. That's another thing I was going to bring up about you're in I know the roof was open, but that stadium still is loud, even with the roof open. And when you're always in the shotgun and you're always doing the silent count in the shotgun, Nate Davis has enough trouble figuring out who to block. But his whole responsibility was because obviously your center can't look back to get the signal from the quarterback when to snap it. So Nate had to always look back at Caleb, and then he would slap Coleman in the ass to tell him to snap it. It's like, how couldn't Caleb line up and then he could be the one who smacks him instead, and Nate could actually look at who he's supposed to block?
I actually think that's a normal thing in the NFL.
It is a normal thing. It's absolutely a normal thing. But I'm I don't want Nate Davis having to do the extra thing. Either have somebody else do it,
when he's already not as good as his job,
or think to yourself, we have a rookie quarterback on the road, first road game. It's loud.
Just put him on the center.
Put him on the not all the time. Caleb obviously is he lived in the shotgun in USC. I'm sure he's very comfortable in the shotgun. But just on some of those, just get him up there. I also it just pisses me off. It's like run the ball from behind center every once in a while, just to make me feel good. Just do it.
Does it seem like they're getting plays into it takes a long time for them getting plays in? It seems like they're always Caleb is constantly hurrying.
Well, they they had one delay game. They had another where they had to call timeout.
Yeah.
And Caleb said on the delay game, it was after the Bears had called timeout.
Yeah.
And they're standing on the field waiting for the 4 minutes of NBC commercials to end. And Caleb's getting ready to go in the huddle. And he looked up at the play clock was at 10. And he said to the ref, he's like, "Are you resetting that?" And the ref nodded yes. And they got in the huddle, and then the play clock went off. And apparently the ref thought he said, is that, basically 10? And the ref's like, uh-huh.
Right. He thought he was saying, like, is that set
Caleb
correctly?
literally thought that, well, we're a commercial. They're going to that's wrong. And they got in the huddle, and then the whistle blew. And Caleb's like, what the fuck did the whistle just blow for? And the ref's like, call and delay a game. So some of that also is, but somebody, I think it's wrong. I think the refs fucked that up. But your quarterback literally had the wherewithal to ask. And he got the answer was either the question or the answer was misunderstood.
Right.
I don't know. They seem to be. He did a lot of audibling. He changed the play a lot.
Audibling.
So you've got to have you've got to be getting it in relatively fast. The thing cuts off at 15 seconds, right? Like the coach can't talk to them after 15 seconds.
Right.
They had to change that because it used to be less than that. But the year that the Rams went to the Super Bowl,
against the Patriots?
Yeah, when they lost the Super Bowl. When Jared Goff was their quarterback. They would get to the line as quick as they could so that McVay could look at the defense and basically tell Goff where he would look at it and go, Cup's going to be open on the dig, or he would tell him, and then they would just immediately snap the ball, and Cooper would just throw it to where McVay told him it was going to be.
Oh, wow.
And they've since shortened the amount of time.
Okay.
He was basically he was coaching and playing quarterback at the same time. Because he'd look at it and go, "Ooh, I know what they're going to do."
Playing Madden in real life. That must not have worked in that one game against the Bears, though, that season when it
didn't work against the Bears, and it didn't work in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl, right?
In fact, Belichick apparently by then it was pretty widely acknowledged that was happening. So the Patriots were changing defenses really late, showing McVay and Goff a coverage they weren't really going to stay in. Again, then I guess he knew at whatever time the thing would cut off, and then the Patriots would time it, and they would immediately change their coverage. And now Goff is like, "Oh fuck, what do I do?" And apparently, what he should have done was literally just stayed with what McVay had told him.
Yeah,
because the Patriots were in some cases getting themselves out of position, but it was working because they were confusing Goff to the point where the Ram offense didn't do anything. And maybe Vic Fangio did the same thing to him. I don't know. That game. And Cody Parkey are what got Vic Fangio the Broncos job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
say so.
That was like Vic was the talk of. Vic's a really good defensive coordinator. He's still a really good defensive coordinator. But after that was they shut down this incredible offense, and Vic was getting a lot of credit for it. And then they lost the playoff game.
And they
the Broncos. He was available to be interviewed.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
If they'd been getting ready for the next round, the Broncos would have hired somebody else. And maybe Matt Nagy wouldn't have flamed out quite as fast as he did. Eventually, he was going to do it.
You could also pin any number of fucking doink kicks by Cody Parkey that year, because if they win one more game, they have a bye, and they're they don't have him available then.
They literally knew they knew he had a weenie leg, but he was so accurate in Miami. That's why they got him. It's like, good job. So that sounds like we all like the Bears to cover and win.
Yes.
And then the over-under is only 40. That is tough because you're thinking bad Bear offense, good Bear defense. It's going to be a low score.
Yeah.
But here's one I'm betting.
I'm kind of surprised it's that high.
The over-under for Caleb passing yards is 204. 204.5.
And you're going over?
I'm going over. He's going to have a good game. He's finally going to, he went from 93 yards to 174. You go from 174 to 205, and Daddy cashes a big check.
I mean,
the counter to that would be the Colts have been bad against the run. The Bears desperately need to load up and start running. But I also think I think they want to throw. So I think they'll run to set up some passes.
If Adunze and Allen are out,
but they're more likely to both be back than both be out, right? Rome
or at least
apparently
one of them.
Like Tevin didn't practice today because he's got a new injury. Rome apparently didn't practice because that's part of the plan.
Okay.
They were going to give but that I guess it doesn't mean like maybe he shows up tomorrow and his knee's stiff and they don't play him. But apparently him not practicing today was not a surprise.
Okay.
Like they kind of get, Tuesday was the off day. They basically gave him Tuesday and Wednesday, and now if he's limited or he doesn't practice tomorrow, that would be a bad sign. But I think the plan is that he's supposed to practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
On that Caleb prop, I think I'd probably go under just because, like, this more than anything, it feels like a get right game for the Bears where, like, they may get like a couple scores early on offense, and I think they'll get a score on defense too because I don't really think Anthony Richardson is all that good, and they'll probably just be running the ball as much as they can against a not great run defense to, whether they get yards or not, just to run out the clock as much as they can.
Okay, I will tell you right now, you just gave that prop more thought than I did. I looked at it and went, "That'd be cool if it went over. I'm going to bet it."
Yeah.
Okay.
That was what
all right. That's fair.
One of my flaws when I bet over unders is I hate betting unders, especially for points, because I hate watching me. Oh, nobody scores. I always like bet, and I'm a sucker. And Vegas counts on suckers like me that always want to bet the over.
I agree with you. I do the same thing. Like I hate betting the under. I'm like, why am I rooting against scoring?
To the point where VSiN has a T-shirt for people who like to bet the under, and it's never under till it's over. That's their slogan on the shirt, because it's never under till it's over. Once you hit the over, you win. You can celebrate. You can dance around.
I mean, for sure.
Now, technically, with this passing one, you could get fucked because he could get to 205, and on the next play, he gets sacked, and the 15 yards comes off. No, that comes off the team total, not his total.
Off the team total. But
so instead, he throws one of those stupid. Right. He throws one of those stupid wide receiver screens.
Exactly. That nobody's blocking on. Exactly. And loses yards that way.
I wanted to call. I need to get the number for Shane Waldron's headset so I can call him during the game, because I wanted to call him when they kept running the wide receiver screens and go, "Justin's gone. You don't have to run those. Caleb will throw a slant. Run a slant."
To be fair, if I was just going to say this, if you said that to Shane Waldron, he'd be like, "Who's Justin? I've never met this Justin fellow in my life."
Oh, he knows. He knows. Believe me, everybody in that building still has, they still have a weird hang up about the criticism they get for moving on from Justin. Guaranteed. Yeah. But he's thriving in Pittsburgh.
2-0, yeah. He's thrown about 30 passes total, but
handing off, not being allowed to pass. That's perfect. Yeah, one of the things I was going to write was, boy, did you see the Broncos game where Justin was 28 of 35 for 344 yards and 4 touchdowns? Oh, that was last year with the Bears.
The 28-0 choke job, yeah.
Yeah. He threw the pick and he had the horrible fumble in the fourth quarter. It was a great game. He played amazing until the last 5 minutes of the game. He was kicking their ass. It was great. And then it's not all his, a lot of things happened to set that into motion. But that was so he played that. Then remember they went to Kansas City and they, as we expected, they got their ass kicked the first half. And then he played really well in the second half. And you're like, okay, here we go. And then he got hurt against Minnesota the very next week. And then everything went right in the crapper. So I'm happy that he's playing and winning. I actually would kind of like to see the Steelers actually let him play quarterback. But
hey, it's beneficial to the Bears that he plays.
Yeah, so. 4th round pick, man.
Right.
Yep. The Bears need another punter.
Well, yeah, the Torrey Taylor thing's not working out.
Yeah, he's not impressive.
Well, they need 2 of them. You
not cool enough. Kick it.
Oleg,
kick it, Torrey, kick it.
If you have 2 punters, you don't have 1. If we've learned anything,
I disagree. I think if you have 2 punters, you have.
Did anybody sign the other guy? They had the left-footed one because they could have both, and you could shock other teams. Are they going to use a left-footed punter or the right-footed punter? We don't know. We're not ready. We're confused. It all gets back to my favorite Matt Nagy thing ever was when Patrick Scales had an injury, kind of like this year. And he got asked at his Thursday press conference who was going to long snap, and he wouldn't say because he didn't want the Lions to know. He didn't want the Lions to know who the fucking long snapper was. Do you think they're game planning for the long snapper? I don't think so, Matt. You can just say Dan Campbell's not sitting over there going, "Oh boy, is it going to be Scales or this other guy that they got from the Y?"
I think it's because Matt Nagy game plans for the long snapper. Everybody must be doing it
for sure.
Yeah. I need to. Oh, that's. I always kind of felt like that was why he would obsess over these little useless details.
Yeah.
And so he thought every other coach did. It's like, no, just the bad ones. Just you. Nobody else gives a shit about this stuff except for you.
Oh.
Instead, he's just getting Super Bowl rings for letting Patrick Mahomes change all his plays.
It does. I do like the Mahomes story about Matt Nagy giving him the playbook or the answers or whatever it was during the draft interview.
Oh, yeah. So
that is kind of endearing to Nagy.
I mean, he
seems like a nice guy.
He does. And he's an offensive coordinator, but he's a quarterback coach because Andy Reid is the offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
right.
And I think he's probably really good at that job. And he should probably just do that.
Yeah.
And make a lot of money and then retire. And unless he wants to come back and coach a team in the NFC North, I'd be more than happy to see him coaching somebody else's team.
Right. Like I had time for Matt LaFleur to go.
Yeah. But that was the whole the whole thing with Patrick Mahomes was no air raid quarterback had ever been any good. They even David Klingler and Andre Ware were amazing, and everybody's like they're going to be stars, and they sucked. And then the more recent is like Graham Harrell. I forget who he's the offensive coordinator for Purdue, I think.
Okay.
But he had great numbers, and he couldn't play in the end. And there were a lot of teams, including the Bears, including Ryan Pace, who were like, "Yeah, Mahomes is really talented, but he's an air raid quarterback. That does not translate at all."
Clearly.
And they basically just and there were several teams, I think, including the Bears, who were like, "Okay, well, not him." And so all you did was take like the greatest quarterback of the next 25 years.
Yeah.
Just took him off your draft board.
Crossed him off completely.
Way to go.
Good job.
But the point I was going to bring up about Mahomes was the Chiefs felt like one of the problems you have with an air, and Caleb ran an air raid kind of offense. The Lincoln Riley offense is an offshoot of the air raid. It's a little more conventional than the air raid, but it's still got a lot of those elements to it. And when the Chiefs drafted Mahomes, the idea was he needed to sit out the first season because there's a lot of weird little quarterbacky stuff that you don't do in the air raid. You don't call full plays. You never take a snap.
Mm-hmm.
The audibles are super simple. You don't really do NFL style audibles. You don't ball handle the same way on running plays. And there's a lot of little stuff you have to figure out. And they were like, okay, well, we don't need him to play the whole first year. We got Alex Smith. He's going to be our quarterback, and then we'll move on to him. And there were guys on the Chiefs who said that by like week 5, they were all like, this dude should be our quarterback. Like he had figured it all out in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And Caleb really has to learn a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like, well, he was at USC or whatever, but they didn't run. And that's why I thought that the Nate Tice breakdown was really informative, because he's like, I know people are like, oh my God, he's overwhelmed. He's like, look at this. He's not.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's not making the amount of plays he's going to make eventually, but he's not confused. He knows what he's seeing. He knows in the defense where they're going to attack him, and he knows what to go to, and it just hasn't worked yet.
Yeah.
But it's not like, we've seen it. We saw it with Mitch. And he's like, I don't know. Just throw the ball straight up in the air
First
and run
read
to the
is
locker
his
room.
only read, yeah.
I think it was even true. Like my takeaway from the first game was against the Titans was
Titans.
You're not if you're not going to overthrow. Who did he overthrow?
He overthrew Keenan Allen on that out and out.
Did he? Well, that would have
been a touchdown. That was
the one that Keenan Allen dropped.
That was another one.
Oh, okay.
No,
like Keenan Allen didn't make that drop again. Throw a wide receiver by that much again. I mean, granted, he did it against the Texans somewhat, but like
Rome's not going to make the drop he made in Houston. Yeah,
you fix those two things that probably aren't going to happen again the rest of the year, very rarely, and that game looks a lot different.
It is funny though how like before the season, the Bear fans sit around and they're like, of course he's going to struggle.
Yeah,
he's a rookie.
Yeah,
every rookie struggles, and we're all coming to terms with it. And you watch 2 games, and they're like, "Oh fuck, he sucks." Yeah. My God, they've done it again. They've ruined another quarterback. So in that Titans game, it was the first quarter they had the out and up to Keenan, and Keenan got open.
Yeah,
slowest man in the league, but he knows how to get open. And Caleb overthrew him, and that would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
Second quarter was the one where Caleb Caleb made a great throw. Keenan made a nice cut, and Caleb made a perfect throw right to the pylon. It just goes through his hands.
Yeah.
Keenan, who literally didn't drop a pass last year, dropped a touchdown pass.
Yep.
Of course.
The problematic throws he had on Sunday night were the one to Carter that he just missed. Right,
Mm-hmm.
like it was a tough throw. He's going to have to drop it like in the bucket. But Caleb, we've seen him do it. He can do it. And then when they ended up settling for the field goal, and that was the one where DJ Moore kind of laid on the field and he was frustrated. Collinsworth explained it well. That DJ had forced his guy to the hash mark, and all Caleb was supposed to do was throw it behind DJ towards the sideline. So DJ could turn around and just grab it and go right out of bounds for a first down. And Caleb threw it to where DJ was going instead of where he didn't account for that. And then the very last play of the game that the Bears had, they ran the same play to the other side and to Rome. And Rome didn't come back right, and Caleb didn't throw it right. So there were your two rookies who both fucked up the play at the end. And it's like, well, that's what, they're rookies. That's the kind of stuff that happens.
Like this is still a 12-win team. Is my point.
Well, they're 1-1, and they won the game that they were supposed to win, and they lost the game they were supposed to lose. So panic should not have set in. There's plenty of time to panic, and we're good.
Yeah.
We'll do it when it's warranted, not before.
Exactly.
It's like you're right. It's bonkers that like this is like it's crazy listening to Chicago. Like it's the discourse.
Yeah, I just can't. I knew I couldn't do it because I was just going to get mad.
Like the hope was he comes out, throws 200-300 yard games, and everybody shuts the fuck up. But
well, you know what would have happened then? He would have
Never
started in week
always.
3, and they'd have been he peaked too soon.
Of course.
The league has figured him out. He'll never be good now. We saw the best of him already. It's all over. You don't deserve nice things. You just don't. This is what you get.
Yeah.
Because you're this way. All right. Well, that was good. That was a long, almost hour 49. This is almost like another. We just tag another hour on it. It would have been a remember this crap.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we had to combine Cubs and Bears this week, and they gave us a lot.
Yeah.
We're the Huskies this week. The NIU's at home.
Home against Buffalo.
Heck yeah.
Khalil Mack's Buffalo Bulls.
And his brother. Who was his brother? Remember the Bears had to keep his brother on the practice squad for
Is that right?
2 years to keep Khalil happy.
Oh, man. All right.
All right.
Many of us have herpes.
No, I thought it generally sucked. I didn't think it was a specific suck. I thought it was like an all-encompassing type of suck. So, we're going to try and rectify that. But for right now, I'm going to be pretty pissed about it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. Got to congratulate the Dolan family.
Sean, my podcast co-host Andy, you were his favorite player growing up.
Oh, thank you so much. Awesome.
See what was up your sleeve? Did you use it or?
I don't know. What's up yours?
You got me there.
Yeah.